Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Self-Love, Sensuality, and Success series. And I'm here with the wonderful Lotus Gabriel. Hi.
Hi.
Lotus is a transformational coach, a mentor, an artist, and a spiritual gangster. So I'm so grateful that you're here, and the topic of what we're really discussing is coming out of the sensual and spiritual closet and restoring and reclaiming the divine feminine. So
Yes.
I'm so grateful to be connecting with you like this.
Thank you so much, Lily, for spearheading this interview series for our voices to be heard. Thank you so much.
Yay. So let's kind of dive into it. And, you have an amazing story, and I resonate with it so much. And I know a lot of other women will too. And I know that, sometimes on the outside, our story might not look the same, but there's a lot of things underneath in the layers of what we were taught or not taught that we can really all connect with. And so can you just talk a bit about what your journey was like from when you were through this whole life, growing up, and how you came to be where you are right now as the woman you are.
Sure. Thank you once again. So my name is Lotus, as you introduced to the viewers, and it's funny, there's a Zen saying, right? And I don't know if you've heard it, Lily, it's no mud, no lotus. So in many ways, that one line really captures my life experience, and just layers and layers, like you mentioned. So I was born in Southern California and raised by a traditional Vietnamese family. My parents and my family is from Vietnam, and that was a major thing in and of itself, because I really felt that everything I was taught early on, there was a lot coming from being an Asian woman and who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be. Growing up, I always looked to women of color, and I loved diversity, and I would just watch music videos and listen to En Vogue and Salt and Pepper. And it's all these women of color were so free and expressive, and they got to be luscious and creative. But on the other hand, I was not allowed to be that way whatsoever. I was really taught that to be a lady, you have to be quiet, you have to be submissive. And I also carried a lot of weight within my family and culture, I feel, of being taught to really be ashamed and to feel ashamed. If there ever was a time that I had a thought or my own opinion, I was immediately put down and shamed right away. And so there was so much of just hanging my head down low and staring at the floor, and feeling just really belittled and trapped, and it was like being invisible. So much so that I also went through sexual abuse and trauma from a very young age. I think it started when I was 2 years old. And although I spoke to my mother about it, it happened actually from my father. And I spoke to my mother about it, and I don't know if it really was because she was so in shock from hearing that from her young child or what, but it was like she didn't hear me and she didn't take any action or respond. So what that resulted in was ongoing, continuous sexual abuse that I had to just take. And that was my conditioning, what I learned from pretty much age 2 through my teenage years. And it really messed with, my view of myself, my beliefs on what my body is for. For so long, Lily, I actually just thought that was kind of my place, my role, and my job was to just allow other people to do whatever they wanted to my body. And I know that's so sad to hear, but unfortunately when, we're young and, our family members pretty much condone and put up with these behaviors, we too just kind of fall under that spell. And it takes a long time to wake up to the divine truth. But that kind of gives you a preface to the start of my journey, my early years. I want to also point out just the part about not having a voice, because that moment when I told my mother what was going on and nothing happened to help me. And, I think even at that very young age, it's like we, somehow subconsciously can feel, right?
Yeah.
That something's off and something's wrong, even if we can't totally make sense of it. And so that must have been why I spoke up in the first place. But when nothing was done to help and protect me as that young little girl, I actually made this silent agreement in myself, which I discovered much later on was my voice doesn't matter. And so it's like I didn't really have my own voice. And beyond that, I also was put on a lot of medications as a youth because I suffered from great depression. I went through attempted suicide. I also had other things like, panic attacks, anxiety, insomnia. But to help kind of deal with all of that, my parents put me on meds. I had to, let many years pass until I was able to even find the strength to say, no, this isn't right for me. And it was really difficult because I had to find the courage to speak up for myself when I still had that agreement that I had made from a very young age. And it was just a fight with, going against what doctors wanted me to do, what my, I was still living at home, with my mother, and so it's like being in her care. But really it was just numbing everything, And now looking back, everything that I've uncovered and learned, it's like, we have a right to feel depressed. We have a right to feel sad and different emotions, especially when there's such valid reasons for that, in this case, trauma. But trauma or not, that's been definitely a life lesson that to honor our emotions and our feelings as human beings. And I'm just so grateful that I've been able to find my voice and to undergo much transformation that opened up through the path of opening to spirit, awakening to my spiritual self, getting off the medications, and really bit by bit, with a lot of perseverance and compassion, starting to reawaken in my own body to feel, and feeling everything. That means feeling the different emotions that had been repressed, feeling the pains, and then feeling actual sensation in my body. And, I think that way too many women live their lives being cut off from the lower half of their bodies, right? And I know that's why, thankfully people like myself and also you are here to just hold space and, be a sister to other women.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, so much of your journey I just really resonate with. I definitely had made some kind of deep kind of agreement with myself as well through trauma that my voice didn't matter. And yeah, it's taken a lot of work, and it's a continual, it's something I just have to always kind of be aware of and see where I might be being held back by that old kind of agreement. That even though when we do like a lot of work around, kind of releasing those old ties to those agreements that we made with our younger self, I feel like the body takes a little longer to catch up, right? And the subconscious takes longer to catch up as well. That we have to create this whole new belief system for ourselves. And we can start kind of changing our thoughts, but then it has to go even deeper to become a real belief.
Yeah, right, like down to a cellular level.
Right, and like into the cells of our body. So our body has a whole different kind of memory even. Yeah, so thank you so much. And there's so much in your story that is important for, just society to understand that, silencing a child or not honoring their feelings or not believing them when they tell you something that, traumatic is happening to them, just medicating them just because we think that, we don't know how to deal with what they feel because we don't deal with our own emotions.
Right.
So it's very, very important what you have to share, and your voice is very, very important.
Thank you. Yeah, for each of us, finding our voices as women, absolutely. And I mentioned just a little bit about being really shamed, and that being like a main teaching in my family. So I want to touch on that. It's like there was a lot of concern for how we would look to other people, to outer eyes, and I don't know if it's really only because of, my family, came here from another country, and so it's like, going through so much, going through war, the Vietnam War and everything, coming from such a poor country, getting to come to America is like this dream, that, a lot of people from different places, I think, are given. And so once you get here, it's like, who are you? And this like lost identity, and how do you fit in, and wanting to fit in, wanting to be accepted. And so it's almost like it becomes this game, and no one really knows who they are underneath. And it's quite sad. And so it's just so much of like growing up in a household where it's like, well, what are other people going to think? What are other people going to think? Like a real, rooted fear. And so, the results of that can just go on and on. I took that, and what I did, one of the things is I actually made a career masquerading as a model and a professional makeup artist.
All the masks.
Yeah. So I trained extensively in cosmetology, makeup artistry, and it was also really because like I'm an artist, and so I'm creative, and I wanted to have fun, but there was also this like adhering to that standard that I was so raised on. And another note is that I come from a family of many women. It's pretty typical of Asian, and I think, different cultures having big families. But all the women in my family, and just I think speaking for, my ethnic background, Vietnamese women and other Asians as well, cosmetic surgery is like crazy big. Like it's a normal thing. Like maybe 8 out of 10 women have enhanced their bodies, their faces. Well, it's called enhancement, but you know, in a very like bold and, to me personally, a very extreme way. So I had this all around me. Like, Lily, when I was in my late teenagers, it's like my mother and all my aunties, you know, were kind of setting this up for me. Like, well, when's your turn, you know, to get your breasts augmented? And so it was so prevalent from women in my family, changing the shapes of their eyes, their noses. I mean, it's, so that is a deep wound that, I mean, it's in my, I guess, cellular makeup, in my lineage, you know, that I have the power to awaken from that, like, just illusion of, like, not accepting who we are as we are, you know, and that's, again, back to, like, being able to have different feelings and allowing that and not shaming it, and to, well, all of us look differently, you know, from wherever, what race we are or what size we are. And there was a lot of that pressure for me, and I just kept trying to like fit other people's ideas, you know, and then going off into modeling and fashion, that didn't really help either, because then there's those mainstream standards of from society and the fashion business and the beauty industry of how we should look, right? And really underneath that path, I was just really looking for love outside of myself, because I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that as well. I started modeling when I was 13, but just in my kind of small hometown, and by the time I was finished with high school, I started going overseas modeling professionally. So I was about 18, 19, and I grew up very, like, I was always really thin and kind of teased for being thin, and really didn't like my body. But then I got into the modeling world, and, you know, I apparently had the perfect body. And then still, I was asked to lose weight, to be a certain measurement. You know, they have these specific measurements that you have to be in your hips, your waist, and your breasts. And it was just crazy. And I didn't do it. I just, because I think I'd grown up kind of like wanting to have more, you know, weight on me or more curves like a woman. I was like, that's crazy. I'm not gonna lose more weight like after I've been like trying to put on weight my whole life. But it, you know, for a bunch of, you know, young 18, 19-year-old models who I lived with at the time in these various countries, they didn't think twice about it, you know. They went ahead and did it, and every time I ate my food, you know, they were like, what's going on? You're gonna get fat. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't understand how I am supposed to survive without food. Like, it's just not gonna happen for me. But it's amazing. Yeah, a really toxic world. And, you know, what I found about it is, you know, you have these adult, you know, 40, 50-something-year-old men and women telling these young teenage girls what they need to look like, and doing really toxic things to be able to look like that.
Yeah.
And that just gets into your head. And I mean, I think I was like the most insecure about myself and about my body from the modeling industry, you know?
Yeah. God, I feel like we are just two peas in a pod, like such mirrors of each other. Like, yes. And it all just, you know, it is that word that you said, toxic. There's no other way, you know, to describe it. Let's just call it what it is, you know? And it's like such a brainwashing, you know, like, oh, this is glamorous and sexy. And meanwhile, like, what's underneath is like young girls who don't even know who they are, and like the relationship, you know, with ourselves. What is that? You know, the same thing of like, I wasn't skinny enough, I couldn't be skinny enough, you know, was just dieting, and it, you know, became BDD, body dysmorphic disorder. And I mean, because when you're going through photo shoots and gigs, and then afterwards the photographer photoshops you to, you know, completely changing you, you're like, oh, what's wrong with me?
Right.
And it's so confusing, because then there's like the brainwashing from that business, and then I also just was being told things from my family. It's like I'm a lot taller than most Vietnamese women. I'm about 5'8" without shoes. And so my mother was always really embarrassed, you know, because the Asian boys that I was dating, you know, like I would be taller than them. And it's like, so I came from a home that really wanted me to be invisible and to shrink and to stay quiet and be passive and not expressive at all, you know. I do have an older brother. It's just such a contrast. Like, we were treated so differently.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing so authentically. And so we spoke about this. You first said the phrase, and I just loved it. Respecting the yoni. And so I know that's kind of like where you're at now. And so could you just talk a little bit about what that means to you and how that has been, you know, a part of your healing, transformational work?
I'm just like, fuck yes. I'd love to. Let's get down into it.
This is the good stuff.
Yeah, it just feels so healing and liberating for us to be here and like open up this authentic conversation that, you know, relates to really all women, right? Let's just assume. So respecting the yoni, it for me is about me honestly completely respecting who I am as a female in this body, and like rewriting the old programs, right? So everything that was given to me from all these external sources, right? Tuning in now to my alignment with my higher self, my relationship to Great Spirit, you know, and awakening my inner wisdom. And what does that tell me? Where does that lead me, right? There is this now healthy relationship with my body where I can actually connect with her, listen to her, you know, notice how she's feeling, what does she need, where does she want to go. So she's like my guide now, right? Yeah. And so to love ourselves really through and through. And I mean, even just that line of respecting the yoni, for me, it's a complete transformation, Lily, from shame to celebration.
Can you say that last bit again?
Yes, going from shame to celebration. Yeah. I mean, this relates to, as you know, also our moon cycles, you know, like just all the stigma and shame from back in the day, because it's not a part of my life now, you know, of like that's dirty and awful and all the embarrassment. So it's a great transformation and healing to wake up to. And it's, you know, really just has to start within me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yummy. And so how can we really respect the yoni, respect our yoni, and, you know, develop that relationship with our femininity, with our sensuality, and with that womanhood, right? And like you said, getting back in touch with releasing the shame and coming to celebration, and yeah, and it's really coming back to nature and, you know, to our natural rhythms as well, right? But yeah, what would you say, how we can kind of come back to respecting the yoni and celebrating her?
So many different things I could touch on that, you know, come into play here for that to happen. But I did spend quite a bit of time rewilding myself. And as you just mentioned, like also just being outdoors, actually like having my body be a part of nature. Instead of just confined inside the house, or even just, you know, these days I think like being too plugged in on our computers and devices. And so rewilding so that I could step by step like move away from being so like domesticated, so trained to just be, you know, convenient and submissive, and that's the, you know, losing sensation and feelings. So something can really happen and become activated when we spend more time outside and freeing up these like tightness and these pockets of energy in our body that have been like constricted. You know, I've even like I've howled like on a daily basis. At one point I needed that, you know, like, and it's interesting that I found myself in that position doing that as an adult, because I remember like when I was a kid, like having just like bouts where I would just like scream and then I would automatically get, you know, in trouble. And it's like instinctively something in our body knows that we need this release, you know. But because of the people around us, you know, we're quieted, or then we accommodate and we shut that down. So to reawaken, there's a lot with rewilding, even just like practicing self-massage, you know. I mean, there's a lot of different things that a lot of people also talk about desire, like, which I do support and agree that we have to have the desire to really awaken, right? And to heal ourselves. But I remember on my path that at a point, even that was so foreign because I had been so shut down for so long, especially with the meds. So maybe before our relationship with desire can really feel alive, really, I think there's like a need for even curiosity. Like curiosity into maybe there's more, you know, or curiosity of like, what else, you know, is this really true, you know, are my lady parts, you know, something to be embarrassed about?
Yeah, being really curious is important, because when we can't see another side, you know, when we can only see what we know and what we feel to be true, being curious is going to at least start to pry open and lead the way to an opening of something new to come in and to be experienced and felt and known. So that's really great. The thing that you said,
there's like, for me, I just know it happened from a place of noticing through time, right? Like being self-aware that, okay, I'm doing all these things, right? Like things looked great on the surface, you know, like beautiful, and I could have modeling jobs or whatever, and I'm taking meds, but, you know, it's like paying attention, how are you really authentically feeling? And that's like radical self-honesty to look at yourself and address that. So that takes courage. And, you know, for me, the curiosity led me to just stepping into a yoga studio for my first time, you know, like, what is this stuff? And also then I was really just guided, like, what is meditation? And I just went to like every meditation class in town, and like, you know, and I kept going from there. So that's how it manifested in my life and kind of unfolded. And it can look differently for, you know, every woman, right? But being curious and open, just doing whatever you can to look for the answers, and you will find them for sure. And, These days, I also really pay attention to my moon cycle, Lily. right, of working with her. And there's like a lot of magic and power in that. Honoring, you know, the time that we're bleeding, and well, really, I mean, throughout the whole month, but really paying attention to that. There's a whole, you know, teaching and process on that.
Yeah, it's so important, coming back to the natural way that our body just naturally knows what to do. And I think so much of society is fighting against what's natural to us, and it's not doing us any favors. So, you know, it's like as simple as listening to when you need to take extra sleep. You know, you just need to get extra rest. I think a lot of us, because we're in this society of like go, 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 do, achieve, 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 when we're like tired and we need more sleep or something, it's like this beating ourselves up, you know, like why I should be able to do everything, instead of just listening to our body, listening to the rhythms and the cycles and honoring that.
It reminds me of, you know, these characters like Superwoman or Wonder Woman, right. And it's like, put on your cape and like just do everything, sister. And it's like, I want us, Lily, to just like, it's 2016, you know, the divine feminine, and we are so awakening. It's like we need to just be the ones to re-author, you know, what it is to be, you know, an attractive woman, right? Beyond what other people say. And, you know, who is really the woman that we are, and who we want to be, who we aspire to be. You know, is it one who just pushes and pushes herself and, you know, doesn't think about her needs, or what, right? And it was just last year that I fully greened my period. Yeah, and that was really something that was amazing. Do you remember those commercials, you know, back in the day of like Midol pills, and like, I just remember.
I'm not sure. I grew up in Australia. I don't know if we have them.
Well, here in the U.S., there's like commercials targeting, I think, teenage girls. And it's like, well, don't let your period get in the way, and, you know, just pretty much like plug it up or pop a pill and like be athletic and continue to do sports. And, you know, it's like not taking time to be in the feminine. It's like this image and message was sold to us of like, just keep going.
Right.
But over time, you know, what can happen from that? You know, a lot of imbalance.
A lot of imbalance, a lot of burnout, breakdown, numbness, just unhappiness. I see it a lot with a lot of clients that I work with, and it's almost this like, I mean, we just don't know. We just don't know that there was another way. We've really been taught to not listen to ourselves. You know, the same as what your story tells. Not to trust ourselves, not to listen or trust ourselves. And I'm so glad that we're here, you know, speaking the truth.
Yes, sister. That's, you know, back to respecting the yoni, right? Trusting ourselves, our inner wisdom, our body's wisdom, and honoring what's present, what shows up. And of course, we're all here in this patriarchal, masculine society, you know, and so we have to be brave enough to like reclaim our power and say, I actually have a say. I have an authority over how I want to live, and I have choices available. I have support that is available, right? And I had a teacher I worked with explain it this way once, and she was saying, you know, in our patriarchal society, it's like everything is solar energy, and we're taught that bigger is better, right? We want bigger, more, and just keep expanding. Except for women, we are these lunar energies. We're connected to the moon. And so we have to realize that it's not just grow, 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 expand bigger, 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 but that there are times to expand and then to be in our yin and to contract, right? And so that's where like working with our cycle comes in.
Yeah, and that is, to me, also sounds like, you know, going into the darker spaces, you know, doing the shadow work, going into kind of that hibernating winter place, and the places within us that we kind of avoid, you know, we go through life avoiding looking at because it's dark or unknown, and being with those parts of ourselves as well. Not always just expanding and you know, like the spiritual community talks about, you know, just transcending, but also, you know, coming back to what's within and what's here on the physical plane, and in our physical bodies, in our emotions.
Yes, I love it. It's just that, you know, connects to what we were talking about, nature and rewilding. And, you know, Lily, you and I, we both live in Southern California. And so it's like we don't get to use our environment and the weather here to see like the change of, you know, different seasons, because we got a lot of sun here. But, you know, honoring, okay, when is winter time for me, you know, even just within 1 month, right? But going on that note of hibernation or, you know, more rest, upping the self-care during the time that we're bleeding. And definitely understand what you're talking about with just the shadow side of spiritual community. That was a very personal and tough one for me myself. I shared with you before that I spent time at a Buddhist monastery, and the Buddhist teachings really connected to my heart. You know, I learned mindfulness and became a mindfulness teacher, and it really did help me at that time in my life to be calm, to, you know, and it's like I was this Zen priestess, and which is great, but after a while it's like I was stuck there almost, because, you know, that fullness of our whole body, like I was saying, not being cut off from the waist down as women, right? And so then I ended up going into my body deeper and deeper, into the womb space, opening up so many repressed emotions, including anger, rage, you know, these things that a lot of times, unfortunately, in spiritual community is not welcome, right? Because there's like this hippie vibe of like peace and love and bliss and the light, you know, which is awesome, but it's not the full spectrum of who any of us are by any means.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, and in some cases it's termed as like, oh, taking a spiritual bypass. You know, it's like, are we just fooling ourselves? Are we just escaping and saying that I'm just, you know, so happy and I've transcended all of these, you know, really deep, like difficult things? Or have we gone into it and allowed our body to feel it and therefore have the release?
Yeah, it's like we're trying to escape the human experience. And it's like, well, we're here for the human experience, and that includes all of the not so blissful, you know, uplifting emotions as well. So let's fully like embrace all of it, right? So, how do you take care of yourself? And I guess within that, you know, like, because there's lots of things, you know, and you've shared a lot of that too, but if you have like a kind of a lack of time where you are, you know, doing a lot, creating a lot, or traveling or something, you know, what's your kind of like go-to self-care routine or practice that you love?
Right. Of course, there's so many different morning rituals and routines that we can get into. But the first thing that comes to me, Millie, is just a note on my practice of really grounding healthy boundaries. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's like we know that we want to be here as like open-hearted beings, right? And like shining and sharing our love and compassion, and that's just who we really are. And then there's this, I reference it as, you know, my inner masculine, right? Shiva within me, that really grounded energy and the discipline and the assertiveness to speak up and to place healthy boundaries for myself. That overall, I think it's one of the most important self-care tips I could share. And of the times when, you know, if I'm busy or traveling or whatever, I go to pausing and taking a mindful breath. Yeah, to just ground, recenter, and to presence myself in gratitude, you know. And so it's simple yet really powerful resource that I call on.
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree with both of those. Breath, we always have available to us, and learning to set healthy boundaries, you know, learning to embrace the word no. And no is not a bad word. I heard someone say no is not a dirty word. Same as money and sex.
Amen.
Yeah. So what is something that you would tell your younger self, knowing everything that you know now?
Oh, dear younger self, dear child. She's like, just reflecting back on the younger me. With compassion, I would want to share so much, but I would tell that girl, everything that you need is inside of you. And contrary to what you've been taught, you don't need a man to rescue you or take care of you or to give you anything. Yeah, don't fall for that Prince Charming story. And I would tell her to dare to be different, and that we each have our uniqueness, and it's a gift. And and just, you know, who cares about fitting in? To just expand on that, like, I would tell her conformity is much overrated, just like pants and bras. And that feelings are a part of us. Our emotions are a part of our human experience, and they're not wrong or bad, and they can serve us as our teachers.
Yeah, beautiful. And I know you've done a lot of, you know, inner work and probably a lot of healing with your little girl inside of you, but I also I know that just everything you said right now, that, you know, that part of you heard it and got it. And any, you know, anyone who can relate to your story, and just for me, the inner child is so important, you know, for us to realize that, yeah, we didn't have control back then, and but now as the adults, it's like it's our responsibility to really, you know, go back in and kind of take that child's hand that's still within us and still, you know, kind of angry and sad and confused and scared, and to be able to be the adult for them that they never really had, in the way that they never really had.
Yes, definitely. The inner child is such a real living person inside each of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you want to be known for, and what kind of impact do you want to leave when you leave this beautiful planet?
I think I want to be known for someone who really had the strength to be a trailblazer. It's like, I know that just taking from, looking at my life and my family, like, I'm breaking the cycle, breaking the mold. And my path now is all about serving Shakti, the feminine, and to demonstrate, a bunch of different things, right? Like sisterhood, you and I have talked about, but to demonstrate, well, what is this new archetype, the divine feminine, and that she is not just an accessory, that the feminine is powerful, and she's powerful in her way. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and she's within us. That's really amazing insight. I don't know, it's an amazing realization.
Yeah.
That she's around us, and she's in a way separate from us, but she's also within us, and so she's a great guide to find that power inside of ourselves.
Yeah. And I think to just, be a support to others, knowing that you can go through darkness, go through lots of darkness and come out the other side, coming from all of my crazy and wild experiences of, previously being suicidal and all of that. And now it's just really to integrate, and that we are so full, so multifaceted, that we are spiritual and sensual at the same time, that, we don't have to choose, we're just unlimited.
Yes. And what are you most excited about right now, or this year?
Well, even in this moment, I'm so excited and blessed to be here, just like having this talk with you, Lily. And I just feel and know this is going to be an amazing time for all of us, and an amazing year. I'm excited about several of the different things that I get to share. I offer and host a free monthly full moon women's temple, which is done virtually. So we had one just a few days ago for January's full moon. And it's a 90-minute super fun dive, and just brings lots of healing and love and celebration for community, no matter where you are. And I'm also in the middle of a transformation project of rebranding my healing and coaching business. And so that's really exciting. I hope to release that in late March, and that is thesacredgangster.com. So the Sacred Gangster is my homage to Shiva and Shakti within each of us. And one more thing I'm excited about is I am creating a site called ilovemyyoni.com. And that will come out later in spring, probably be releasing that in late April. And it'll be a space for the self-realized and self-validated goddess. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm excited about all that too.
Yay.
Yes. Wonderful. So everybody can find you at thesacredgangster.com. It'll be launching in March, but they can find you there. and find links to all of your other work that you're doing right now.
Yes.
Yeah. And then later, did you say in April?
Mm-hmm.
In April will be ilovemyyoni.com.
Yeah, and if anyone would like to join the free monthly Full Moon Women's Temple, just go ahead and go to thesacredgangster.com and sign up for my list right there.
Awesome! Yay! I'm so excited for you and for everything that you're doing with women and just the planet and shining your light and speaking your truth. And, you know, I know that all of the work that we do on ourselves to heal and to release, you know, all of the shame and the pain and transform it into celebration and in healing and compassion, I know that that just touches so many. It touches the whole world, you know? Even if we're not always able to directly, you know, be affected, I know that kind of that energy is rippling out in the world in an amazing healing way, and it brings me so much joy that you and so many of us are doing that for ourselves and for each other. So thank you so much, Lotus, for doing your part.
Oh, right back at you. Thank you for all that you are doing for women and our sisters as well through your offerings. It's been amazing to just witness.
Yay! Well, I'm so glad that we connected. Thank you so much for your time. I know that everybody watching this will have gotten so much from your journey and your perspective. And I'm very excited to continue to collaborate and connect with you.
Yes. Yay. Yes, please.